a land where whispers of the undead have echoed for centuries. Eastern Europe, where vampire hysteria was not just legend, but a very real fear. Long before the world knew of Dracula, the people here already had their own names for creatures that fed on the living. They called them the Upyr and the Strigoi. These were not elegant aristocratic monsters. They were ravenous, wild, and filled with an insatiable hunger. Unlike the solitary predators of later vampire lore, the Upyr and the Strigoi were often believed to rise in groups, preying upon entire villages. The Upyr was one of the earliest vampire figures in Slavic folklore, a being that did not simply rise from the grave, but often clawed its way out night after night. It was said that those who had been evil in life, murderers, sorcerers, those who died by suicide, or those who had been cursed, could return as Upyrs. Unlike later vampire myths where the undead were weakened by sunlight, the Upyr was believed to stalk the living during the day as well as night. They did not just feed on the blood, they tormented the living in many ways, drinking their victims' souls, spreading disease, and possessing their bodies. One of the most terrifying beliefs about the Upyr was that it did not die easily. You could not simply stake it through the heart and be done with it. The only way to stop an Upyr was to completely destroy the body, burn it, behead it, and scatter the remains far from the consecrated ground. From the heart of Romania came another legend, the Strigoi, a name that would later influence the creation of the modern vampire myth. The Strigoi were not just undead, they were spirits of the dead who refused to move on, sometimes taking physical form to torment the living. The Strigoi were often tied to curses or unfinished business, their presence bringing misfortune, famine, and disease. Some Strigoi were believed to drink blood, others simply to sap the strength of their victims. But one thing was certain. If a Strigoi was suspected in a village, fear spread like wildfire. Many believed that the first sign of a Strigoi was its own family members falling sick and wasting away. If this happened, drastic action was needed. The dead were dug up, and if the corpse showed no sign of decay, it was declared a Strigoi and had to be destroyed. One of the most infamous cases occurred in 1755 in a Romanian village, where the body of a man named Petre Toma was exhumed after numerous deaths in the town. The villagers cut open his chest, removed his heart, and burned it to ashes. Drinking the ashes mixed with water in a desperate attempt to break the curse. The fear of the Upyr and the Strigoi was not confined to legend. In the 17th and 18th centuries, real vampire panic swept across Eastern Europe. Graves were disturbed, bodies exhumed, and brutal rituals performed to ensure the dead could not rise again. Archaeologists have uncovered hundreds of vampire burials, proof that these fears were not just the tales of old women, but deeply ingrained in cultural beliefs that led to extreme actions. Were these villagers fighting mere superstition, or was there something more? The legends of the Upyr and the Strigoi would not remain hidden in the villages of Eastern Europe. They would spread, their details morphing, emerging into the aristocratic vampire of Gothic fiction. When Bram Stoker wrote Dracula in 1897, he drew heavily from Romanian vampire lore, taking inspiration from the Strigoi's shape-shifting abilities, thirst for blood, and connection to the night. But while fiction has refined and romanticised the vampire, the ancient fear still lingers. In remote villages of Eastern Europe, there are still whispers of graves being exhumed, of strange deaths, or something moving in the dark. The Upyr and the Strigoi may have shaped our myths, but what if they were based on something very real?